Namaskar. Viewers, I will be on P-Guru's and Virat Hindustan Sangam online channels as part of Gyan Ganga series on Sunday, the 1st of August, to talk about Pegasus and its implications to the security of the Indian society. The talk will have three parts. 1. When and why NSO was formed, its boundaries and its scope of operation and how it embeds itself into your phone. 2. The various lawsuits against NSO and what each one is looking at. 3. How a user can defend himself against Pegasus. We will be touching upon implications of Pegasus on Indian politicians, businessmen, journalists, and where things are headed. Looking forward to seeing you on P-Guru's and VHS online channels on Sunday at 8 p.m. Thanks for watching and click on the bell button to receive notifications.
Friends, Namaste and welcome to our Sunday edition of Gyan Ganga Words of Wisdom on our Virat Hindustan Sangam various social media channels. And as you all know, we beam at 8 p.m. live across the globe. And every Sunday we have Dr. Subramanian Swamy discussing a new topic with a new guest and giving you a lot of gyan, giving you a lot of wisdom on various issues that has been dominating the scene in the week gone by or in the months gone by. And today we'll be having a discussion on guarding against phone tapping in the recent context of the Pegasus and its implication to the security of the Indian society. Our guest who will be talking with Dr. Swamy today is Sree Iyer, who, as you all know, is based in the California state of USA, and you have seen him in our programs earlier. He's an author, inventor, innovator, and out-box thinker. He has 37 patents to his credit, and he has been writing numerous books and his popular P-Guru's website, where he publishes daily new articles, new research, new exposes, and which is very popular with the Indian media and the Indian public. Is everybody watching it every day and wanting to know what is the next item he is going to be writing on. He is the author of numerous books in the last, I would say, 7 years span. He has written on, some of the books he has written on is NDTV Frauds, The Gist of GSTN, Rise and Fall of ARP, C Company, and updated version of NDTV Fraud. And another thing which Sree Iyer specializes is he is a painter in prose. His three books, which he has recently written, is Who Painted My Money White, Who Painted My Lust Red, and Who Painted My State Purple in the context of the US elections. So I say he is a painter in search of various colors, and he has been a painter in prose. So with this, I welcome Sree Iyer and Dr. Swamy to our show. We thank our viewers across the globe for their support. Last Sunday's program, we had a viewership of 42,970 viewers, and the viewership grows, and the viewership is across the globe in various countries and on our various social media platforms. We are expanding on our various platforms and catering to various age groups and friends across the globe. So with this, I have to thank my co-host Ramesh Swamy and also Professor Arvind Chaturvedi from Delhi, and our technical team led by Ashish Shetty, Tejas Navalgul, Gadgi Rakesh, Ishwar Iyer, Swaminathan, and Vishal Mehta for their team efforts to put this program together and do research work and help us in the background. So with this remarks, it is over to Dr. Swamy to initiate the topic of today and start the discussion with Sree Iyer.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jagdish. This is a technical, a technical come Sherlock Holmes mystery type situation that we are in. And I think the technical thing needs to be cleared by the man who is today our chief guest, namely Sree Iyer. He lives in where I think he lives in the town where Apple has its headquarters, if I'm not wrong, or near there, and in California. And he has, of course, taken the trouble and has given up his valuable time patenting. He had patented already nearly 40 patents. He's got to his credit, and he could have gone on much more, but he has, for the sake of Bharat Mata, his original home, he has devoting time to exposing. Those of you who want to know about National Herald, he has brought out a book like publication, and that is very thorough. Yes, there it is. It's a very thorough analysis of National Herald. So you can say all the questions you wanted to ask but were afraid to ask. So you don't have to worry. You just have to get that book from his website and so on. I will not take up much more time. I will just some uh, technicalities which people are confused by. I want to make it clear. NSO, National Security Organization. Am I right? That's the.
Yes.
Uh, it is a private company. It's not Israeli government. Of course, the Israeli government, as you say, and most of its staff are retired Mossad and Shin Bet and so on. So, I mean, Israel is a small country, and they use the human resources, from across the spectrum of employment, and therefore these people are really experts. And this company uh, is on the verge. I wouldn't say it is certain, but it's on the verge of being bought by a company called Berkeley Research Group. I don't know whether Sree Iyer will tell us something about it because it's in California. And so an American company may be now buying this, and maybe because of the controversy, it might go. So this is something you have to watch out. The Pegasus is a horse with wings, which a member of my family who knows all about all this says that the horse flew up in the sky and then became part of the constellation, and there's an identified constellation for it. So I mean, there's obviously Pegasus is a attractive name. So it's a company. It's a software company, and because it is for spying, therefore it's called a spyware company. So then the leak was carried out by something called Media Part, two journalists, and it was then widely published in Washington Post, in London's Guardian, Le Monde in Paris, and so on. So this because of this publication, now we know about it. Now we have no official knowledge of it. The statement given in Parliament by the new IT minister basically says we have done nothing unauthorized, and leaving the impression, therefore, they have done nothing. So it's a very cagey answer, and I think I won't be able to push it much more. What we need is disclosure either from France, where they have actually set up an inquiry, and the prosecutor of Paris has gone to it, and their part of the problem is one of the countries which was being monitored was Morocco, and Morocco is sure that it was the French who have done it, and so they have filed a defamation suit against the French authors who are involved in this. And so France has got involved. Now the Israelis have also joined with France, and they are trying to come out with a common approach. Now, I would only add one more thing, that the Israeli government has also ordered an inquiry. And so the Ministry of Defense is investigating. And they will come out with a comprehensive report. Is likely to be explosive disclosures, because it's happened during Netanyahu's time, and the present government has been formed only to keep Netanyahu out of power. It's a coalition from the Arabs, the small Arab section MPs who have got elected, right till members of Netanyahu's cabinet who have come out of it. And so this coalition will survive only if they continue to target Netanyahu. So they are also very keen for it to come out. So the government of India, if actually they did contract, and I can't see how they would, somebody authoritative, whether with the permission of the Prime Minister or without the permission of the Prime Minister, I don't know. But it could not have been, there are so many names, 300 names. These names could not have been gone into, because some of them are ministers, some of them are judges, some of them are senior officials of Enforcement Directorate, etc. So it couldn't have gone in unless it was because the mandate for NSO is that it will only contract with governments and nobody else. No private parties they will contract. And most of their work is for tracking telephones of terrorists. But now money is a very attractive thing. So the governments were ready to pay a lot. And so they said, well, we assume that they are giving terrorist names while ministers and Supreme Court judges and so on. So the key question is, will Indian government be named as a buyer or contractor of this software? Now, if that happens and India is cleared, then this matter is over. But if India is not cleared and they say, no, the following people from India, National Security Advisor or IB chief or RAW chief and so on, they are the ones who came and contracted. And here's the picture of the contract. So then, of course, we are in a real big scandal. It will be much like Watergate in the United States. What is the violation? The violation is Article 19 of the Constitution, 19(1)(1), freedom of speech, and which has been interpreted to include freedom to hold opinions and so on. So it's a very wide fundamental right in our Constitution. And the second one is the right to life, which includes a whole lot of things, and that is Article 21. So both these have been, in any case, whether India is involved or not is another issue. But this particular investigation is a violation of these two articles of the Constitution. And so N. Ram of Hindu, The Hindu, is a writ petitioner on a PIL, which the Supreme Court announced last Friday that they will hear it in the coming Thursday. So this week, Thursday, Ram's petition will be heard. And then from then on, if they issue notice to the government, then the government has to come out with the truth. And if the truth is that they are not involved, that's very good. It's good for the government. But if not, then I think a lot of political turmoil is ahead. So now maybe Mr. Sree Iyer, or you deserve a doctor, so I am willing to call you Dr. Iyer, a doctor many times over. Iyer, this company may be now next door to you, Berkeley Research Group. They are pretty serious in trying to buy it. And you are in a position to tell us what really happened. I've only said what the structure is so that people understand there's a difference between Pegasus and NSO and so on. One is an organization, the other is the software. And what does this software do? And why is it so obnoxious for us? And then what are the ramifications? So over to you. No one will disturb you till you finish speaking. You take as long as you want. It's a hot topic and there's no time limit.
Namaskar to all my viewers, my family of VHS, and thank you once again, Dr. Swamy, Jagdish ji, Ramesh Swamy, Arvind ji, for giving me an opportunity to share my thoughts on this latest revelation that has actually seized the whole world. And I did a quick teaser that was out on VHS India. In fact, you may have seen it today. The slide presentation that I have a very short slide presentation, only 8 slides. I want to put it out there so people don't think, oh my God, here goes another 30 slide deck. It is very, very small, 8 slides. And I'm just going to quickly go through from the genesis of this company, NSO, up until now, how they have kept upping the ways they could snoop, and what are the things that we can do to avoid getting snooped, assuming that our name comes on the list. By the way, I'm as disappointed as Dr. Swamy that my name also hasn't appeared on any of these snoop lists. So that's okay. We are not enough. We haven't done enough, Dr. Swamy. That's all it tells. We have to do more. So with your permission, sir, now I'm going to put a slide presentation, and here we go. Pegasus and its implications to the security of the Indian society. Was the snoopware misused to settle scores? So this is the second question that I'm going to ask. And let's take a quick look at what this presentation is going to be about. We're going to touch upon 3 things. When and why NSO was formed, its boundaries, its scope of operation, the various lawsuits that are against NSO. And this started a fair amount of years before. It's not today. And new suits are still coming up, and how you as a user can defend against Pegasus. Now, Pegasus software was released for the first time in 2010. By 2014, it could embed itself into an Android or an iPhone using what is known as clickbait. What clickbait is that, you will be getting a message. It will be either on your email or on WhatsApp saying that click on this to find out you won the lottery of $1 million. Click on this to get your money, and so on and so forth. That is called as clickbait. So till recently, I would say about 2017 or so, one required to go and click on something to be able to start to be able to enable the Pegasus to start snooping on you. That used to be the case. But today we are at what is called as zero click. What that means is that Pegasus has now hacked most of the versions of smartphone software operating systems, whether it is Android or iPhone, it doesn't matter. They seem to have figured out a way to get underneath all the apps and sit as a vulnerable at the lowest level, which means that they have figured out backdoor entries to operating systems, whether it is iOS or Android. And I might just want to take 1 minute to explain to you how Android is considered less secure than iPhone. The reason is very simple. From what I am told, Google doesn't charge much for Android. It might be even zero. So the operating system is given to the guy who's assembling the phone. Now imagine the guy who's assembling the phone is taking something from chipset vendor like Qualcomm or Texas or Samsung. Then he's designing a pretty looking box. He's worried about how low cost he can make it. So clearly they don't have the bandwidth to check what kind of security features Android comes with. Therefore, things get a little bit more murky, and hence Android is considered less secure. I'm going to, at the end of this presentation, I'm going to say how are all the things that we are going to we can do to keep ourselves safe. And Ramesh Swamy will be also complementing this with some observations of his own. So today, what is the status? All Pegasus needs is a phone number. From this, it will identify the phone, then its vulnerability, and embed itself without the user knowing. There will be no notification that you are being tailed now. And I explained to you, iPhone is considered harder to crack, mainly because Apple controls all aspects of the iPhone, the hardware, the software, and the firmware. Therefore, it is considered more secure. Again, it is not as if iPhone has not been hacked. It has been hacked. In fact, I'll tell you why it has been hacked. If you can unlock an iPhone in India, an iPhone that was purchased for use in US or somewhere outside of India, that means somebody has figured out a way to get into iPhone and open its vulnerabilities. Next one is, once Pegasus embeds itself, it can control the audio and video functions. In fact, it can turn on audio, turn on video without your knowing it. So I'm very curious about it, because since I have not been hacked, because there is a little bit of a button, there's an LED that glows when your video is on your phone. I don't know if they have figured out a way to turn on video without turning on the LED. So it's an interesting topic. I don't know. We have to see how that goes. Anyway, recently, I think about 7-8 days ago, Amazon Web Services shut down the NSO servers. And this was on the Amazon Web Services platform called AWS. See, here is where things get a little interesting. NSO was part of an Israel government cloud, state cloud. And that was considered to be one of the higher secure installations or instantiations on the Amazon Web Services. Now, when NSO got deplatformed, what happens to the rest of the Israeli government machinery? Did AWS just isolate NSO and do it? Or is the government's data itself being affected? We don't know the answer to this question. Neither Amazon has come out and said anything, nor Israel has said anything. The important takeaway from this is Israel, which used to have excellent relationships with Amazon, Google, and so on, there are some cracks that are beginning to appear. And like Dr. Swamy said in the beginning, that there has been a concerted attempt to keep Netanyahu out from the government formation. And I'm going to dwell on that a little bit after we finish this thing and give you some alternative perspectives on what's going on. Now, the other important thing is NSO requires Israel government's explicit permission to sell to other countries. It has to be given. The defense minister of Israel has to sign off, saying that it is okay for this government to start using Pegasus software. Now, the question that then comes up is, was India abusing its license, and was it doing it willfully? Were approvals obtained? So the way I understand it, viewers, again, I've lived in the in United States for 30 plus years, and I understand the legal system here. If you want someone to be tapped, you need to get a judge's permission, and the judge needs to be convinced that this person whom they are seeking to tap, whether it is a law and order agencies like police or investigative agencies like CBI, they have to establish firmly that this person is indulging in anti-national activity, terrorism, or anything that essentially affects the stability of that country. Were these approvals obtained? Now, like Dr. Swamy said, one-line answer in the parliament, and this is in Babu-ese, bureaucraties. Why say not unapproved and all that stuff? Why can't they say we have not done it? They won't do it because they want this, wiggle room to get out. We didn't say this, we didn't mean this, but that is how governments work. I mean, I can tell you, IAS hopefuls must be, watching Yes Minister and Yes Prime Minister that aired 30 plus years ago in BBC and saying, this is how I'm going to present stuff. Anyway, back to our presentation. So now the next thing is, there have been many lawsuits against NSO. I'm just going to dwell on one. WhatsApp sued NSO in 2019. And what did WhatsApp say? WhatsApp accused the company, that is NSO, of targeting its users' mobile device with malware. So in 2019, WhatsApp figured out that their app was being hacked. At that point, Pegasus technology was app-based. That means you could specifically take a particular app and figure out a vulnerability and then break that thing. Now, in the court document, this is the case came up, I think, in 2020, and NSO argued that it should be, remember the previous slide I said that NSO, for it to be licensed to any country, requires permission from the Israeli government. So what they said was, we should be granted sovereign immunity because its clients are vetted government customers, and governments cannot be sued for performing their legitimate functions. And this is the important part. NSO has also argued that it is the customer that does the targeting, not the company. In other words, once Pegasus software is licensed to, say, India, it is India who is going to take up and start listing, I want to look at this number, this number, this number, and so on and so forth. So first, what happens is, in many cases, the lawsuit itself is examined for merits. And a judge said that it could proceed. This happened in 2020. After that, the NSO went back and appealed this ruling, and now the judge has made a ruling in April. However, it has not seen the light of day yet. But my guess is that after all this, I don't think there is any other choice but to let the trial proceed and see how WhatsApp can say that we have been willfully hacked by NSO. We have to wait and see how that plays out. Next. So how does one defend against Pegasus? After all, we are all, customers. We look at the lowest cost smartphone. Actually, we look for value, which gives you the best value, and that's how we buy our phones. So in 2014, this was a brochure that Pegasus put out, that it can monitor voice and VoIP, that is voice over internet protocol calls in real time. A VoIP call, you can think of, some of you, whether it is WhatsApp or FaceTime, all these are VoIP. They can siphon contacts, passwords, files, and encrypted content from the phone. They can also listen. This is 2014. Things have evolved quite a bit after that. But as Pegasus breaks into operating systems, what happens is, this is a race, Once Apple, for example, comes to know that Pegasus has broken into their iOS, they go and find out how they got entry, and then they'll close that. And then Pegasus goes back and says, so they have closed this door. Let me see what other door I can open. But the takeaway here is, it no longer is limited to apps. It is now at the operating system level. So once they open, it's like, giving the keys to the kingdom. Once you have that, they can pretty much look at whatever you want, except there are some conditions where you can still defeat Pegasus. I'll let Ramesh Swamy dwell on that when his turn comes. Next, how do you defend against Pegasus? The simplest thing I can tell you, viewers, is be transparent in your lifestyle. So what if someone gets your contents? So what? These days, everything is out there. In Facebook, you are saying who your friends are, who your family is, where they are doing, what they are doing. You are celebrating your birthday, myself included. And if you obey the laws of the land and pay all taxes, what is there to worry about? At some point, they are going to say, oh, this guy leads a very boring life, and you automatically get deleted. Also, let's say if
that's how you and I got off the list.
Yes, that's probably true. So the other option is to segment your functions, meaning have multiple smartphones, use one phone dedicated for VoIP applications such as, say, WhatsApp, Telegram, and Signal, and so on and so forth. And that way, what happens is, your family life, your personal life, you keep it on one phone, but your professional thing, your contacts, you keep it on a different phone. Now, VAD, the software that I've been trying to promote in India, does have this thing. It's called as multiple profiles. You can click into one profile on one number, and then you can go from personal to business and so on and so forth. It takes care of a few things, but I'll add to that once Ramesh Swamy has had his say. Next one is the most important. This is the most important thing. We don't even realize we are doing this. Run as few apps as possible. Because sometimes what happens is, let's say there is a new code patch that came from iPhone that you installed, and Pegasus can no longer get into your phone. You are being tagged. Then Pegasus will take the next level of approach. They'll say, okay, what apps are you running? Let me see if I can get into your phone through one of your apps. So why give them that oxygen? Use as few apps as possible. It gives you several other benefits. It'll increase your battery life, and meaning like it'll one charge it'll go longer. More importantly, your apps that are still remaining will run faster. This is the truth. People don't realize it, but let us try to follow this. These are all simple rules. Just reduce the number of apps that you're going to use on a phone. That will give you a lot of protection. Now, let's take a step back and look at snooping. Snooping has been around for a long time. In 2015, Reuters reported that WikiLeaks had suggested that America's National Security Agency was spying on Merkel and her staff. And this had gone on for a long time. This is in 2015 under Barack Obama. And WikiLeaks had claimed that NSA targeted long-term surveillance of 125 phone numbers. Now, what happened? Germany was outraged. And suddenly, Obama lost his tongue. He didn't say anything. He just very quiet, kind of got buried under and tried to look for some other news cycles to hit. But the interesting thing that happened was, looks like, I'm connecting the dots here. This is the painter in prose talking here. Germany has a law that it cannot snoop on its own citizens. So Angela Merkel, who wanted to find out where the illegally obtained wealth of its high net worth individuals are, asked the US to snoop on its citizens and give that data. So some sort of a quid pro quo was arrived at. So my take, Dr. Swamy, in this is that even though we are hoping that there will be some revelations, at a country to country level, usually what will happen is, okay, you will do this, I will do this, and we will just say that, we were not going to do this anymore. I'll give you the first step that has already happened in this case. What has happened is NSO has now stopped 40 countries from continuing to use the Pegasus software. So clearly from the server, they have a way to turn off the switch. So now, as of today, 40 countries cannot use Pegasus software. So there is some damage prevention happening. So before I finish the thing, I have one small observation. I'm going to stop my screen now. We can get back to. I have one small observation. You touched upon it, sir, and I want to expand on this a little bit more. Now let us take a look at what has been happening around the world. See, when Trump lost in 2020, it was considered a victory of the liberals. And in United States, there are also another group called progressives that they have managed to unseat Obama. And if you go back and listen to George Soros' speeches, he has consistently said that he would like to have open societies, open borders, and looks like, again, I'm putting on my painter's hat here, looks like there was a deal that as soon as Biden administration assumes control, that they will have open borders. Sir, between 500,000 to 1 million people have illegally crossed into the United States. And they were all not even checked for COVID. And the better part here is that once the border camps got filled, and they got filled up very fast, these people were bussed, flown to various parts of the country. Now, the rule in the United States is every illegal immigrant needs to get in front of a judge, and his case has to be heard before the judge will say, yes, he can stay or he needs to be deported. Now, the waiting time is 3 years. And just like, I can tell you, sir, my perception is that the Democrats in the United States, they took the playbook from Congress and said, let's take it and let's not use it again and again. I'll give you another example. I've been writing, and I don't know how many other media sites have been writing about this, but there has been one author, Sri Hari Om, who has been visiting the Rohingya camps in Jammu. And he did a research, astounding research. He said that they were very carefully placed in those constituencies where the margin of victory of the BJP was between 400 and 500 votes. And the other thing he said was, for once or twice they were allowed to go into the camp. He said he did not see a single Rohingya family with less than 8 children, sir. 8 children. Imagine the kind of thing that's going to happen 10 years from now. India has a very poor record of deporting anyone. They'll just do some exercise where, in the camp there'll be 2,500. On the train there'll be 500. By the time the train reaches the border, there'll be 5. See, this is the kind of implementation we have. It's full of
sad.
It's very, very sad. I'm really getting under the skin of the government here. I'm hoping that somebody gets enough Josh to say we got to fix this thing so my point is, they have done the same thing in the United States, sir. These illegal immigrants have gotten themselves buried into what I call as inner city places where it is very easy to get lost. It's going to be a Herculean task to try and find out, even when they get their day in the court, to locate that person and bring him to the court, because the courts are probably at the point where they cross into the United States, which is maybe Texas. So you see, there is a huge problem here. And so getting back to the main point, the liberals wanted complete control. And by complete control, I mean they did not want the world to know if a toolkit was indeed being passed around everybody in the world. And Pegasus comes in the way of that. So this is the contrarian view. The contrarian view is, look at what what happened to Netanyahu. He lost by 1 vote.
That's
right. So somewhere, some other country has been twisting arms, bashing heads together and saying it doesn't matter. We need a non-Netanyahu government and we shall get that done. So if you think about some of the countries that were aligned, say in 2020 June, you had Netanyahu in Israel, Modi in India, and Trump in the United States, and Trump was standing up to China, and he was very relentless. He was saying that you shall pay the tariffs and you shall respect our intellectual property. So, but now they have managed to win in 2 out of 3. The third one being Boris Johnson. Somehow the British have elected conservative government, which I think has a little bit more hope than, say, if there was a Labour Party. The Labour would have wreaked havoc, in my opinion, again. So the last bastion is, three people: Viktor Orban in Hungary, Narendra Modi in India, and Bolsonaro in Brazil. Abe is already sick, poor guy, and Suga is a pale shadow of Abe. Again, my opinion, I could be wrong. So you see that this is now the last thing that is standing between absolute control for the liberals. Again, all this is one point of view, sir. And viewers, I want to stress this thing. Please make your own conclusions. All I am saying is what I am reading, and I have spent a lot of time doing research on this. In fact, I went to Hebrew sites, translated it into English to see what the local newspapers were saying. So my point here is there are 2 sides to a story. This could be one such thing, but it does not take away the fact that people in India were snooped. And again, I want to give you another small data point, Dr. Swamy, with your permission, just 1 minute. See, when 370 was abrogated, right, in Kashmir Valley, in specific areas, internet was cut off for, I think, 18 months or something like that. Why was that cut off? Now, a subject matter expert who came on P Guru's channel explained it thus. He said that prior to 2019, smartphones with special software used to be smuggled in from across the border, and these smartphones could instantly tell you where stone pelting was going to take place. They had everything arranged. The stones would be arranged, because I used to always wonder, how the heck can you get hundreds of stones at the same point? How can so many people, it's like a flash mob. That's a concept called flash mob, where, people will just come to a mall and then start dancing on a particular tune. Something like that these guys were doing. So Indian government was unable, again, this is the SME's observation, unable to track what was the software that was being used, send all these messages. The only thing that they could see was this software needed Wi-Fi connectivity. Therefore, you cut that, hence the information gets cut. Now, this was made into a big deal by none other than the current Vice President Kamala Iyer Harris. She said that, she made some very intemperate remarks. I hope she'll, she has to see that for herself. Anyway, so the point that Madam Kamala Harris forgets to mention is that, sir, there is a neighborhood near my house called Gilroy. In 2018 or 2019, the year is not important, there was multiple shooting incident in a mall. 2 different places people were shooting. You know what the police did? They shut down the internet for that area for close to 2 hours. Because once they figure out that it is not a lone shooter and that it is happening in collision with multiple people, they have no other way. They have to come and act immediately, because there's a synchronized play of events that could be happening. So US does it too. So I don't think it is US, it behooves US to lecture other countries that you shall respect human rights when they themselves don't do it many times. Sometimes there is no other option. So just live, move on, and go on. So long story short, Pegasus is but one instance of where the surveillance has come to light. Whatever be the person who is making it up, like Amnesty International and other organizations, the truth is still the truth, sir. I think the people of the world deserve to know the truth. And that's where my stand is. Thank you very much.
Before I ask Ramesh to give his, he's also a software expert. In fact, he does a lot of work for the US government on that. So that question is this. If somebody accused the government of India of getting this software, this Pegasus software, for Pakistani officials, Chinese officials, one could understand why Indian government, when they have IB and you have RAW, and there's a lot of tapping going on here within the country, why would an Indian government, where the accusation is made that the Indian government is behind it, why would the Indian government go to an Israeli company to do what it can do itself within its own country?
So, sir, it clearly states that there are limits to how much snooping the India's own software or capabilities are. It is not easy, sir. And you have to have a lot of acquired knowledge, acquired database, where you keep continuously building. See, Pegasus has been in existence since 2010. Yeah. It took them 4 years before they could attach themselves to an application. And then only recently, they've got the zero-click capability. And the reason for that could be, is that the number of Android manufacturers has come down. So it's, so the pool is shrinking, and therefore it was easier for them to do it. So my guess is that India's snooping capabilities are perhaps not as good as, the Israelis. The Israelis are, again, top of the line, sir. They need this for their existence. They need to know when a certain adversary is about to catch cold. I mean, they want to catch it at the sneeze point.
Yeah, they are fighting terrorism in a very scientific way. Would you say prima facie you think without the Indian government this couldn't have been done?
Oh yeah, absolutely. This, sir, I'll give you a simple example, sir. There is a gentleman who comes regularly on Wednesdays at 9 p.m. on P Gurus. His name is Jitendra Kumar Ojha. And he has a concept called Indocracy. He's been saying, what needs to be done? In everything in India is now corrupt. Where do you start? How are we going to do it? So we have been identifying various aspects and things like that. And his number, his wife's number, is on that list. and I'll give you one other interesting information, sir. He is honest to a fault. He does not brook any kind of corruption, and he was instrumental in lining up Dawood Ibrahim's lieutenant Iqbal Mirchi in London, where he worked with Scotland Yard, local police. He had to build a case. In Britain, you can't just like that say, go tail this guy, he did everything meticulously, brick by brick. And he built the whole case, and all the MEA had to do was to formally request an extradition order. And this is all UPA time, not NDA. NDA has been better in this respect. And they didn't do it. So there is another person called Ravi Shankaran, arms dealer. Again, he has done all this. So the point now is that he crossed swords with the current raw chief. You see, so my fear is there are people who are embedding their own personal people that they want to keep tabs on and saying, okay, add this guy's name. Mr. Chidambaram probably had a list. In the top of the list was the ED officer, Rajeshwar Singh, his wife, his sister, who's also an IAS officer.
That's true.
These people are being there. So somewhere, maybe the top three, Amit Shah, Modi, and Ajit Doval had a few people in their sight, in their crosshairs. But then once it comes down, everybody gets added in this list. So, which is why I'm deeply disappointed that you and I are not there.
Yeah, terrible. I'm going to ask the Israelis to put my name and your name just for the sake of spiting Modi. Anyway, Ramesh?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me, Sree? Good?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. So, Dr. Swamy, I have 3 slides. So, Sree pretty much covered most of the very important topics. So, the most important thing, as Sree was mentioning more than once, was the zero click. Means you don't have to do anything. As long as there is a cell phone tower where this equipment is installed, you have no control over it. So essentially, it uses a network injection. So what I mean by that is there is some equipment that's mounted on a cell phone tower. You don't know. So then that's it. And all they need is just that. And as long as there's a phone call that's coming to the tower, they know in an area, they can mount it in 4 or 5 towers. And that's it. In any phone call that comes in, they can latch onto it. So it injects itself when a conversation happens. Be it a phone call, FaceTime, WhatsApp message, it doesn't matter. It just hooks onto it. So that's the way it gets injected. That's what we call and it's a no notification. It doesn't tell you something is getting installed. So it right now pretty much hooks on to all the major messaging applications, WhatsApp, Telegram, Signal. Sree mentioned all of this. In fact, FaceTime and iMessage too, for that matter, they're all hooked on. And people think that they can remove it or all the things. It does leave, even if they remove it on their own, let's say they put it out and pull it out, there is a residual payload left. I will explain to you what a residual payload does, because Sree mentioned something in his speech. So in general, public need not worry because it's extremely expensive. It's a basic installation is $500,000 and it's $650,000 for 10 licenses. So basically transfers to $65,000 per license, which is what we're talking about, 4.7 million rupees, something to the effect. So it's pretty expensive. General public need not be worried, but obviously targets. I mean, it is pretty expensive. And if you can only do, if you buy $65,000, you get 5 licenses, you can target 5 phones.
Yeah.
So if you want to target 5 more, you have to buy 5 or stop snooping on 5, go to the next 5. So that's essentially what this whole thing is all about. But anybody who's saying that, oh, we don't know, is just pulling drugs on all of it. It is impossible. They only sit to the government, as Sree said, it's very clear. And you need access to the towers. I mean, who's going to have access to the towers? It's not something you and me can just climb a tower and put a network equipment out there. So you have to be very clear, and no cell phone company or what we call as a provider would say, okay, use my, I mean, there is some tacit understanding. Let's put it this way. So it is impossible for the government not getting involved. And all the equipment that is telecom has to be licensed. So yes. It is like what the question that you asked, it's near impossible. And if you say a foreign country is doing it, it is shame on our country because we don't know that a foreign country is installing it. It's ridiculous to say that a foreign country is doing it. Yeah. So let's come to quickly on mitigation. I'm just going to go for the drastic measures to what we can do diligently, because this is not for the common public, but I'm just telling you, stop using the infected cell phone. Actually, that is the only solution. Throw that phone away. Literally, now phone and SIM, both. You have to throw it away, get a new number, a new phone. Or, like what Sree suggested, have 2 phones, keep one for private and keep one for business. And do whatever you want. Disconnect, typically use limited apps, like what he says, and make sure that all your passwords are changing every 30 days. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be madness, but that's exactly what it is. If you're so paranoid that you're on that list, luckily you're not on the list, Sree is not on the list, so he doesn't have to keep changing the passwords. So you don't have to keep changing it, but that's the way mitigation works. I'm just purely from a technical standpoint. Sometimes when you restart, it temporarily stops Pegasus because it needs time for it to activate. So maybe, but how long can you keep doing this? even a factory reset, I'm just going to come back to the previous slide that I said, even a factory reset, there is no guarantee. Factory reset is just completely reset the phone and start all over again. There is no guarantee that Pegasus will be removed. Let me tell you why. When you start installing the other pieces of software on it, like put on WhatsApp. So when Sree said, even when you update, what Pegasus does is it keeps a track of what you're doing on the phone. Hey, he's updated. And it keeps, so it knows that you've upgraded, or it knows that you factory reset, and it'll send the injected message again. So there is literally very difficult to escape this once your phone is targeted. Unless they pull you out of it, it's very difficult to escape from this. And plus, even if Apple patches one part, what does Pegasus do? It is intelligent enough to latch on to other apps, right? Like WhatsApp or something else. So it'll use that app to monitor you. So there is very difficult to get away from this. It's like, once you're in, it's very difficult to get out unless they choose to remove it. And they
You mean to say somebody else telephones me, so automatically they get into a connection to my phone? Is it in case?
No. Well, that's not what it is. Let's say, Dr. Swamy, you reset the whole phone, and they already have your phone in their database. There's a target. They basically it's an attack vector, so they call it a target. So even if you reset the phone, all you're using the same phone number and SIM, it really doesn't matter.
Okay. So they have the phone number.
So it knows that which they have full cover, but they have control. They can say, sit in the back of the server and they'll remove it and say, we never spied you. There is no way for you to trace it. They just like the way they installed, they can get away. So I think some of them have put up a tool, and it's not a simple tool that you install. It's not easy. Guys, don't try. It's not easy to get that tool and just say, I'm going to install my tool. There are some good experts in India. They can do it, but it's not worth for a common person to do this. Nobody's going to go. I mean, like Sree said, we're all leading boring lives in VHS because we speak the truth. So there's no point in trying to target us. So just
Satyam Jayate might have to be given up.
Essentially, that's what it is. And the basic security things, make sure that your phone have a lot of, you have a good PIN, 6-digit PIN on your phone, even though it's not directly a Pegasus mitigation. There could be other things that could happen. So don't do that. Keep your phone updated, latest firmware. I'm telling you, 85% of the people in the world don't update their firmware. But I'm like a madman, look for it every day. So keep that as a habit. Keep making sure that your phone has got the latest updates, important. If possible, keep restarting your phone every day. It does help in other ways too. Always enable two-factor on all your applications. Do not go anywhere else, because it's not only that, it could be so many other things that are leaking out. And don't click on any link that comes from an unknown number. Even though Pegasus is a non-clickable, you never know what else you're going down the line. There could be a Chinese thing coming in. There could be a Pakistani thing coming in. Don't click on anything that you don't know about. And block all notifications and apps, because your temptation is to click on something. So as far as possible, get limited temptation. And last point about Android, Sree was absolutely right. There are so many flavors of Android. In India, we don't know what version is where, and whether they're patched or not. In 80% of the cases, they have enough vulnerability. So godforsaken place. Android is a godforsaken place. So it's preferably keep yourself safe, secure. That's what it is. And there was some comment in one of the comments, people said, can we put a secure OS? It really doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter at the end of the day. I mean, somebody said there are some high secure versions, but it really doesn't matter. The only way to mitigate is whenever you're using the phone to transmit important messages, use a VPN. But it's too complicated for a common man. So it's really not worth mentioning it. It's too complicated for us. So that's it, Dr. I end with that.
Okay. Just to add to what you mentioned, Ramesh, WAD has an attempt to try and create a VPN-like shell around the app. And that's what makes us comfortable that we are safe. However, the latest versions have not been tested. We are still in the process of making sure that we can claim officially that Pegasus cannot, track us if we are running this. But it's still, one of the things that people complain is that when they are using WAD, it takes about 3 or 4 seconds before you can hear the other side. And the reason for that is that there is a lot of computation going on there trying to set up this VPN-like secure link between the two sides, which is what happens. So anyway, those of you who are using it, good luck to you. The quality is pretty good once the connection is established. However, we are not going to town yet. We want to be careful. We want to make sure that what we claim is the truth. So that's all I have.
Okay. Okay, Jagdish, Arvind, uh, is Arvind there?
Yeah, he's
Yes.
joining us.
Arvind, do you
Yeah.
want to say anything?
My question has not been, in fact, the background which has been given by Sree and Ramesh Swamy is very technical, and it is for the viewers to upgrade their technical knowledge. But my question is more political. My question is the list which the different sources have released has many people who are, in my opinion, insignificant.
Yeah.
Now the question is, why should government be doing surveillance on these people who are not politically significant? I mean, I can understand one or two ministers, or one or two MPs, or one or two, let's say, senior journalists who may be conspiring with the politicians and all that. But we all know that this business has been going on for ages. State governments do it. You were part of Chandrasekhar government, which was alleged that the two constables were spying on Rajiv Gandhi's 10
Yeah.
Janpat house, and the government fell because of that. Then
And,
you have state
and before that, Ramkrishna Hegde.
Ramakrishna Hegde, you have state government cases. Now, very recently, even the Rajasthan government led by Ashok Gehlot
Yeah,
was accused of doing it. In fact, we all know, we have been in politics, that even at the local level, there is something called LIU, Local Intelligence Unit.
yeah.
They keep on doing this kind of thing. But why would they do it for insignificant people? And why should government spend so much money? Now,
No.
let me ask a technical question from Ramesh and Sree. That technical question is, in order to get all that information, there has to be a system whereby there will be some huge staff which will actually monitor this and then pass it on to the bosses. So, what kind of staff do you think will be required to tap the phones of, let's say, 1,000 people? And how many hours? I mean, if they are monitoring for 24 hours, just imagine the volume. I mean, it's mind-boggling. And why should government spend so much money, time, staff for? I mean, but let me also tell you, for some people, the public impression is that yes, government is doing it, and minister has said in the parliament also that we do it and we have a system. But there are
Authorized.
two versions. Second version is the Parliamentary Affairs Minister, Mr. Prahlad Joshi, said it is a non-issue why the Parliament is being disturbed. I mean, non-issue for them or non-issue for opposition. And do you think it is political? I mean, the opposition is also making it more political, and there is not substance in it. Dr. Swamy, and for technical aspect, Ramesh and Sree.
And Jagdish was about to say something. Then
Jagdish.
Ramesh, Arvind, I want to answer your question.
Yeah.
Number one, whom you think as insignificant, may be insignificant from your point of view. I know of a chief minister of not many decades ago who was telephone tapping the phone of his girlfriend. To know who are the men she was keeping contact with.
Additionally.
So don't be surprised. For example, I'm told that somebody, Supreme Court employee, just now, that employee was in a case of some sexual case. So the family members have been tapped to understand. Maybe a government was on to oblige some judge by trying to find out what the plan was. You are talking, there is a report saying that a minister, his gardener, his cook, and some other people were tapped. It may so happen that the minister was using those phones to talk to somebody else. So that is one aspect of it. So it can be what you think. See, we even do not know today why XYZ, whose telephone it was, what was the angle. But I believe in one thing which Dr. Swamy has been openly maintaining, that have a life. Dr. Swamy many times tells Ramesh and Ashish and me to hell with if anybody is reading my mail. Although we take all precautions, he says, what is there? I have nothing secret. What is there in my open talk, what I'm talking on the show, what I'm talking at home, and what I'm talking in Parliament lobby is all open. So one way he has a carefree life, he's not bothered. But please be assured, I want to tell all our panelists that what Pegasus is doing is one part of the tapping story. The other tapping goes on in India unlimited.
Yeah.
Once Mr. Arun Shourie leaked a conversation with Mr. Deva Gowda and Ajit Singh, the party president. And it came in the Indian Express on the front page trying to embarrass Deva Gowda and Ajit Singh, which you all know. The central government was headed by Rajiv Gandhi and the state government was headed by one Mr. Clean, Ramakrishna Hegde.
Mr. Clean.
It so happened, an inquiry commission was set up in the party headed by Dr. Swamy, and his report came, and Bahadur Madhu Dandavate filed a question in Parliament which happened to be a starred question. And Rajiv Gandhi disclosed that Ramakrishna Hegde was using the Telephone Act to tap the telephone of Deva Gowda. Ultimately, the present Chief Minister of Karnataka, his father became the beneficiary of the tapping done by Ramakrishna Hegde because he had to resign and S.R. Bommai came as Chief Minister.
That's right.
So all
By the
this happened.
way, Hegde was also tapping the telephones of his girlfriends.
So anyway, you have let out the answer, what I wanted to protect. But anyway, that is what. So don't be surprised. There are a lot of angles. Whose telephone, who's tapping? Which architect telephone was tapped in Gujarat? That everybody knows. That was not done by Pegasus. It was done by the local administration. So anyway, I have tried to answer your question, although it may have been directed to the others. I will add another anecdote afterwards, but now maybe others will have to comment on what you raised.
Okay, technical. Sree, you want to take ahead?
यस अरविंद जी, अगर आपकी इजाजत हो तो मैं इस बात को मैं हिंदी में उतर दूं।
जरूर जरूर जरूर।
हाँ, तो देखिए, आज की व्यवस्था अगर आप देखेंगे भारत की सरकार की है, तो अगर हम 100 बाबू देखेंगे तो शायद 90% उसमें भ्रष्ट हैं। एक जमाना ऐसा था जब सिर्फ 10% भ्रष्ट थे। तो अब क्या हो गया है, ये 90% जो है, इनको हमेशा ये चिंता रहती है कि वो जो 10 जो भ्रष्ट नहीं है वो क्या कर रहे हैं, क्योंकि उनको ये लोग ब्लैकमेल नहीं कर सकते। तेरे पास ये है तो मेरे पास ये है। सी द गाय हु इज नॉट करप्ट, वो हमेशा यही बोलेगा मेरे पास सच है, दीवार डायलॉग। तो सो ये एक चीज देख रहा हूं। आप देखिए एसके श्रीवास्तव जी एनडीटीवी के विजिल ब्लोअर थे, आईटी ऑफिसर, उनको 56J में कंपल्सरली रिटायर कर दिया गया। जितेंद्र कुमार ओझा, उनको भी यही हुआ है। और उसके बाद अभी राजेश्वर सिंह जी, बिकॉज स्वामी जी ने उनको पहले से उनका जो चेस गेम जो है ना, वो देख लिए कि इस तरह से मूव करने वाले हैं, तो उन्होंने उसको रोक दिया है। लेकिन अभी भी ये अगर मौका मिला तो कुछ ना कुछ जुगाड़ करेंगे ये लोग। तो ये बात है, आज की व्यवस्था ऐसा है। और मेरा ये मानना है, एंड मैं यहां पर बोल रहा हूं क्योंकि ये मैं पहले भी कह चुका हूं अंग्रेजी में, मेरा ये मानना है कि अगर आप मोदी सरकार को एक क्रिकेट टीम की तरह देखें, तो इस क्रिकेट टीम में सचिन तेंदुलकर खेल नहीं रहे हैं 11 में, ताकि वो बहुत ही एक्सपीरियंस्ड हैं, बहुत ही फिट हैं, लेकिन सचिन तेंदुलकर उसमें नहीं खेल रहे हैं। ऑन टॉप ऑफ दैट रोहित शर्मा को बाहर निकालने की कोशिश की जा रही है, चेतेश्वर पुजारा के पूरे नए रूप निकाले जा रहे हैं। तो फिर क्या करेगा ये 11? ये मेरा मानना है। अगर आप इससे आप संतुष्ट हैं, यू कैन अग्री और डिसएग्री विथ मी, बट मैं ऐसा इस तरह से देख रहा हूं। आई होप आई आंसर्ड योर क्वेश्चन सर। ये 90% जो है इसके हाथ में है, आज भारत इसकी मुट्ठी में है।
One more thing. Yes. One more thing, Arvindji. The other important part is, in general, India, people don't value privacy at all, whether it's their own or somebody else. So that's why I wrote a tweet. It said it's not privacy in India. It's pry and see. That's all the element. I mean, everybody in India is interested in pry.
PRY and SWE.
Yes.
Okay.
So people in India are more interested to pry and see what's happening with the other. So it's basic tendency. It's just that if you're curious, and if somebody offers you $10 million, you just want to click on the link. I mean, attitude-wise, they have to change first. And plus, as Sree clearly explained, I mean, you can't do much because if the top is so corrupt, I mean, what will the common people do? And as I said, common people need not worry about Pegasus. It's too expensive to target a common person. And why some people there are not there is not for you and me to take, as maybe the top, maybe 3 or 4 will be from the top 2, 3 people in the government. The rest, there are 5 licenses available. One Babu might think, I don't like that Babu, let me track it. I mean, how does it matter? It's 5 licenses. So the key is, it's important that, this cannot happen without the government's tacit support. Let me put it that way. It's impossible for Pegasus to spy on anybody or to put a number on anybody without the support.
Let me ask you to Sree Iyer and Ramesh. If, for instance, the Israeli government says that all the tapping or whatever spyware used were on written contracts with governments of each country, which means India had a contract, written contract, because the requirement of the NSO is that it will be given only to governments. What started off by using to penetrate the terrorists was allowed to be used for political purposes, provided the government wanted it, and they would not question. The government knows its national interest. Who's NSO to say that this is not correct national interest?
Exactly.
Okay. So, if this comes out, do you think that it will have an impact in India, or people say this happens all the time? Once badi baat hai, we should be talking about Corona. Why are we talking about this, etc.? This is the issue. I mean, do we spend energy to get to the bottom of this? Of course, you people, for you it's child's play to get into the bottom of it. But there are so many people who are struggling to learn what is this all about, and what is the technicality, how it is done, so on. So many, you're spending a lot of your time updating your knowledge to be able to understand this. But is it something which will probably, my personal view is that the problem will come from the Supreme Court and not from any of us.
Correct. Absolutely right, Dr. Swamy.
If the Supreme Court says that this has violated your 2 fundamental rights, Article 19 and Article 21, it will have a very damaging effect. I know that people may say, no, what people know, but in the emergency, this exact same thing happened. The lack of freedom to meet people, talk freely, became a factor, and it became a factor with the most illiterate part of India, which is UP, Bihar, and all these educated madrasis like you, me, and Ramesh. We voted for Indira Gandhi. You see, if everybody was thinking like madrasis, then the emergency would never have gone. This is this northern cow belt, it is called, or used to be called. That is the one that not only voted against Mrs. Gandhi, but they wiped out the party from the parliament completely, from 11 states. You see. So, therefore, the common sense, the common man is not, contrary to the feeling, I would say the educated people are the ones who sort of dismiss this, what is this, happens all the time, why are we wasting time, we should be working about COVID and so on. The common man thinks that this is dangerous and it should not happen. This is our ancient culture showing its way, because we have not been brainwashed by the use of English. So, I mean, these are my projections, because the emergency has always fascinated me, on why the northern, poorest part of India, the least educated part of India, why did they vote for democracy, while the most educated part of India voted for the emergency?
So, Dr. My input for you is this.
Yes.
Emergency put in restrictions on freedoms in terms of physical as well, to a
Yes.
large extent.
Yes.
But Pegasus is not like that. Okay.
I agree, but
Okay.
then the educated people should have felt more strongly about
Exactly. That's why I said Indians, by and large, don't give a damn about privacy. They don't care. That's why when I said they want privacy, they really don't care. But Dr. Swamy, but individuals like, let's say, Ram succeeds in his petition, will have a severe impact. And I completely agree with you that if the Supreme Court comes hard on this, it's going to be a huge embarrassment. Forget about local embarrassment. Globally, India's
Yes.
name would be badly damaged for spying on its own people. It's going to have a bad impact. Then the cascading effect will happen. Obviously, the educated think, this is normal. But as you said, the uneducated says, they've lost our trust. Right? At the end of the day, what is the core? The core is basically the trust. So these guys are spying on me. I don't like it. That would trigger the tsunami.
That's true.
So Sree, your point.
Yeah, sir, there's one small difference between 1970s and now, sir, and that is that fake narrative has taken such a strong root in our society. Sir, I'm telling you, even lower middle class, anyone who has a TV, the moment their eyes open, the TV is on. Something or the other, the data is being consumed, sir. It is continuous, and each one forms their own reliability coefficient. Being from 0 to 1 means 0 is I don't trust anything this channel says. 1 is this channel is absolute speaker of truth. So they come up with their own thing saying that, okay, this is what it is. But the point, I think, is we need to really do, I'm sorry to go a little bit different from this, we need to make sure everybody votes, sir. The middle class take the easy way out. 100% you have to vote. If you don't vote, you'll be fine. And make it possible by using blockchain and being able to vote from the comfort of your home, watching TV, but you use your smartphone and vote. Because why I say this is, now it is a little harder to have en masse like the way it happened in 1977. Each state has its own quirks. Like, for example, you take Tamil Nadu. 65% is supposed to be youth, yet they went and voted for the DMK. And in many constituencies, sir, the margin of victory or loss is less than 1,000 votes. This is where my fear comes in. Were any Rohingyas settled in these places? See, once you are in India, it's absolutely impossible to control. The local MLA has complete tabs. So many people are coming in. This is a locked vote, and if I give them the voters card and Aadhaar card, and this is Bheti Ganga mein ek aur mil gaya. So this is a problem we have, and I think there is a mindset that is, and you've been pressing this for a long time. What is my identity? This answer has to be in every child's mind, body, and soul. I am a human being first, then I am an Indian. That I will support what is India. Look at all the lumpets sitting in Tamil Nadu, and why isn't anybody doing anything about it? Yesterday, I had a 5-minute hangout, sir, where I said how DMK and TMC are taking such good care of their constituents. Open pass, do whatever you want. We will not go after you.
Yeah, right.
So anyway, the point, I hope I've made my point.
We understood your point, yes. Yes, Jagdish.
No, I'll make one more observation. Yeah. I said about public impression. Dr. Swamy also said about the same thing. You see, it's like Bofors. Bofors ultimately, in the law of court, it was proved that there was nobody was guilty and nothing happened. But public impression was that yes, the bribe was taken and the corruption led to the buying of the guns and all that. Now, same thing. Even in this case, I believe, in fact, this is my impression, that public feel that yes, something has been done. But only thing is, the common man is not affected by that. Now, for example, Mamata Banerjee, Abhishek Banerjee, and other people, they claim that their names are there. during the Bengal elections, some recording of the conversation between the party president and the candidate and all that was released. Now it is proof enough that maybe Pegasus was used at that time, and therefore this tapping was done. So maybe public eye is very, very clear that yes, something is being done.
No, but
No, see, first of all, when your voting percentage for a winner is generally 10 percentage point, even in Bengal it's only less than 10 percentage point, then this common man issue is not there. It's the educated people. If they are horrified that I'm no more safe, all my secrets are coming out, and so on. In fact, one of the ministers had the private secretary in the list in your Pegasus. And people think that's because the private secretary would know that minister's social activities and probably talk about it and so on. So therefore, I'm saying that I would not dismiss this elite crowd and so on, because when elections are being won and lost between 5 and 10% of the vote, I would say that these things do matter, and you could lose an election because of this. And so it's not a mass thing uprising, but it's the balance has changed and you lose. So therefore, there's a very high stakes for the government of India.
Yeah. In addition, Swamy, sorry, go ahead.
Dr. Swamy, you may recall after the 2G you exposed and you were campaigning the assembly elections of Tamil Nadu.
Yes.
An old lady stopped you in the car.
Yes, that's right.
You can tell us.
And Jayalalitha appropriated it as hers, you see.
Yeah, but that old lady told Dr. Swamy that you should not allow the DMK to come to power. That is what she said. So Dr. Swamy asked her in Tamil, why? She says, I don't know, but something terrible has happened. They should not be allowed to come to power. So if that is the awareness of the common masses who are uneducated, deep south, old lady, she knew that something terrible had happened, but she did not know what its implications were for her at least.
Yes.
Yeah, one more thing, Arvindji, because see, if Mamta is targeted, a lot of their supporters, even they're not targeted, but they have an emotional connect saying, wow, so Mamta has been targeted, so I don't trust. See, it's a trust factor, essentially. I think it's not that every common man need to be targeted, but if their leader or somebody they follow is targeted, it has an impact on them and how they think.
Yeah. But if you want to see politically, this is not actually the state versus the opposition or the state versus the dissident. It is the selected people versus those who are opposed to them. They may be from their own party, they may be from the government, they may be from the bureaucracy, and they may be also from the opposition. That is a difference in this time what has happened.
Okay. I think we should...
okay,
we will have to come back to this after some revelations come.
Okay.
Again. So with that, let us conclude. I think Arvind does the conclusion.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Swamy. In fact, the beginning of this discussion was made 2 weeks back when Gopi Krishnan was on our panel, and that day the revelation was done. In fact, the first installment of information came on Sunday, 14 days back, and today we are discussing because substantial information is out, courtesy various media channels and others. And as Dr. Swamy says, in fact, Dr. Swamy, your tweets this morning and yesterday about Israel government doing something, France government doing something. Yeah. I mean, it looks as if maybe the next week will be very explosive. And once this explosive information comes, then people will view it government differently. And naturally, the perception will change. And therefore, it is important. And maybe sometime in future, we will discuss the more details once it is available about this Pegasus or the spying or surveillance. Thank you, Sree Iyer, for providing a very, very useful information. Your PPT was such useful for people. And as Dr. Swamy said, many people, in fact, I am not a technical person. I learned a lot of things about this spyware and all that. Ramesh Swamy added to that technical knowledge. Thank you both of you. Dr. Swamy, of course, as usual, provides the political implications of the technical actions by the different agencies. Thank you, Dr. Swamy, for being with us and providing a new dimension. And in fact, people are looking forward to what you have actually predicted. So maybe tomorrow, day after, and the days to come.
I'll make one more prediction. The person who signed the contract between the government of India and NSO, when his name comes out, you will see there will be a furor.
And you, for example, went to Library of Parliament and found out the 333 crore odd money was spent.
Yeah, that's right, the budget.
So this is all you have done. In fact, this is the contribution about this whole event is significant. And I'm sure whatever you have said yesterday and today, that will also come true. And government should actually issue a white paper.
Yes, that's right.
And opposition should demand it. Opposition has been demanding a parliamentary committee, maybe joint parliamentary committee, some such thing. But this will not really lead to much. Government should come up with an official paper by saying that whether we have bought it or not, and if we have bought it, why we have bought it, how much money and all that, maybe.
Yeah.
So we look forward to more information, and we look forward to more interesting discussion. Thank you, Sree Iyer ji. Thank you, Ramesh Swamy. Thank you, Jagdish Shetty ji, Dr. Swamy, and my technical team, led by Ashish Shetty, Ishwar Iyer, Gadki Rakesh, Swaminathan, Tejas, and Vishal Mehta. And मुझे खुशी है ये बताते हुए कि हम अब इस चैनल का एक विशुद्ध हिंदी चैनल भी लॉन्च करने की योजना बना रहे हैं, और हम लोगों ने आपस में कुछ बातचीत की है. शायद हम अगस्त के महीने में एक विशेष प्रोग्राम करके, महीने में फ्रीक्वेंसी उसकी उतनी नहीं होगी, हर हफ्ते नहीं होगी, लेकिन एक चैनल हम करेंगे. डॉक्टर स्वामी इतनी अच्छी हिंदी बोलते हैं. आज हमारे पैनल पे श्री अय्यर जी ने शुद्ध हिंदी में बात की. तो एक बहुत विशाल समुदाय है जो हिंदी समझता है और जो हिंदी में जानना चाहता है. हम उनके लिए भी एक कार्यक्रम करेंगे. धन्यवाद आपको. हम अगले हफ्ते विल बी मीटिंग अगेन नेक्स्ट संडे 8 PM with a new topic and maybe some explosive discussion with the special guest. Thank you very much. Look forward to seeing you on next Sunday 8 PM. Till then, namaskar. Jai Hind.
One addition, it was the Hindi belt which saved us in 1977, and therefore we owe a duty to the Hindi speaking walas to do a special session for them.
Sure. Thank you. Namaskar.
Thank you. Namaskar.
Jai Hind.